A lot of the world will go out and say yes. Well, what are they saying yes to? They're saying yes to doing it on their own, doing it for themselves, doing it in their own, being their own gods. I realized that all of those things that I had been going through, all of those times I got run over from behind, tire fell off the car, I got disqualified, I failed, I spun out, whatever. It was preparing me for something that was going to leave me more mature and complete than I would have been had it just been given to me.
Wow. Reach so many people.
I want to add to this too, because
Please.
You can't do it on your own.
No.
You cannot do it on your own. You have to have your reliance on God.
Yes.
And I think that that's the difference between what we're called to do and what a lot of the world does. A lot of the world will go out and say yes. Well, what are they saying yes to? They're saying yes to doing it on their own, doing it for themselves, doing it in their own, being their own gods, right? And so we're supposed to be able to say that yes and not be necessarily prepared, but God calls not prepared, but he prepares the call, right? And so
Right.
we have to rely on God in every step of the way. And if you can't do that, then you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Yep.
So okay, you said something key earlier about worshiping, and it doesn't matter where you're at, right? So tell the people this. When did it hit you that you knew you were called to racing? Because a lot of people, we live in this like politically correct world where people got to say, well, if you're, racing or playing football or starting an app or doing this and you have a podcast, like, you should be in the church. No, we need to be outside the four walls, reaching people in these occupations. So when did it hit you that you knew the voice of God said, this is what I have for you?
So I'm looking at the clock now to make sure we have enough time for this story. But so back in 2020, it was a crazy year for everyone. And for myself, it was a make it or break it season for me. I either was going to win the championship and move on and continue my career, or I was going to lose and stop. That was it. Plain and simple. And so I went in the beginning of the year. I was one of the championship contenders, one of the favorites to win. And going to the third race of the year, and I qualified pretty well. I was like third or fourth on the grid, like somewhere I could go for a win or go for a good points finish. And I finished 10th. And 10th was a bottom of the barrel finish, and I had no excuses. I just drove poorly. And so when I got off the racetrack, I go to my driver coach, and he's got some sort of spunky words to give me, right? He's wanted to encourage me because he's a former driver. He's this short little Latino guy, and he's always just bubbly. But when I saw him, he just shrugged his shoulders and walked past me.
Wow.
And so I took that moment, and I was like, all right, okay, I'm going for a walk. So I threw my helmet in my coat. And I wasn't necessarily mad at him by any means. That's not what I'm saying. But it was a moment of realization of like, oh, okay,
it hit you
I
in
understand.
The face, man.
Yeah, like I'm bad. I'm really bad at racing right now. But in that moment, so I went for a walk out in the woods by the racetrack, and I ended up taking a knee out there. And when I took a knee, I was like, God, I started praying. I said, God, what am I doing? I give up. I can't do this anymore. I'm either not good enough, I can't get it right, a part falls off the car, someone runs into the back of me. It's just not going to ever happen. And in that moment, I had one of my homeschool teachers' Bible verses come back to me that she made me memorize back in like second grade or whatever, and it was James 1. And it was, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance.
Yeah.
So let perseverance finish its works, and it may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And in that moment, and it's very fitting to this conversation that we're having now about preparation, I realized that all of those things that I had been going through, all of those times I got run over from behind, tire fell off the car, I got disqualified, I failed, I spun out, whatever, it was preparing me for something that was going to leave me more mature and complete than I would have been had it just been given to me.
Wow.
And so I ended up leaving that, and I felt a big weight fall off of me, and I felt some comfort in that moment because I'd already failed. I was already a failure in that sense. And I said, all right, God, I need something. If you want me to keep racing, I'm giving it to you, and I need you. The next day, I went out and I won my first race of my career in that stage of my career in the car world, and it was the first of 7. And now I'm not one to count numbers, but 7 being the number of completion in the Bible a lot of times. But first of 7. But that first race that I won was on my 49th start. So
7 times 7.
7 times 7. So crazy thing, but yeah, it was just a crazy season.
I don't like
overall.
math, and I just did that.
So anyways, that was a moment where I was like, okay, like I guess God wants me to keep racing, because if not, like the way that race played out too the next day, it was like the gates opened up in front of me. Two drivers came together and then just went away off the side of the racetrack together. And it was like I was the next car in line, and it was like right through the pearly gates kind of a deal. So
the Red Sea literally just parted.
Exactly. So it was really, really cool.
Wow.